Welcome everyone to Driving and Dragons. I'm Daniel, and we are roughly 1/3 of the way through our retread on my series on alignment in tabletop role-playing games. This time we will strive to find the balance position between the various sides of an alignment debate that we really don't care about one way or another, as we discuss perhaps the most simplistically complex element of TTRPG alignment: neutrality. First things first, hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and then click that little arrow button and share this video on one of your social media platforms. While you're at it, consider joining the 8 active members over on my Patreon, and maybe even show your support by throwing a few bucks my way to help rebuild cars that might one day end up in your very own driveway. So why is it that neutrality is quite complex in its simplicity? Well, that's because neutral is actually one term that is used to describe numerous different ethical and moral positions, and it is the only alignment in D&D where it is not tied directly to powerful cosmological forces, at least not always. While it still retains concrete objective definitions, neutral can be divorced from the greater primordial forces of the multiverse in a way that good, evil, law, and chaos simply cannot. So let's start off with something that neutral is not. I find this hilarious because despite it being explicitly stated in the various rule books, you will always find that person who cannot grasp the difference between neutral and unaligned, nor the reason why a sentient being cannot be unaligned. What's even more hilarious is that those same people will attempt to use the behavior of unaligned creatures, mislabeled as neutral, as a facile support for their flawed arguments about moral or ethical relativism in Dungeons & Dragons. I say Dungeons & Dragons because while there are other games that use alignment, they're rarely played by the kind of people who feel the need to validate their personal beliefs by pretending that good and evil are defined by who agrees with them on social matters. So here it is. Alignment is the purview of sentient beings with the necessary agency and contemplative awareness to experience the world beyond themselves. Plants do not have alignment, even intelligent ones. Animals do not have alignment, even intelligent ones. So long as a being acts through instinct or conditioning based entirely on direct and immediate stimuli, it will not have an alignment. An animal cannot be evil because it lacks the capacity to consider its actions beyond the immediate or to contemplate the effects its actions have on others in the abstract. That is not neutral. That is unaligned. While we treat unaligned creatures as neutral in terms of mechanics, even to the point that the rule books often contradict themselves about plants and animals having alignment at all, the fact that they lack the self-awareness and moral or ethical capacity to have an alignment, which is a representation of principles, those beings are incapable of developing. Now that we have unaligned out of the way, let's list out the primary manifestations of neutral as an alignment in TTRPGs. Balance, apathy, lack of principles. That's the 3 ways they manifest. Balance is the only form of neutrality that exists on the cosmic level. Another good way to say it is philosophical neutrality. This is the concept that these powers and principles are all necessary for the multiverse to exist and must be kept in balance with one another. Generally, this philosophy will be relegated to the neutral, lawful neutral, and chaotic neutral alignments. As I mentioned in earlier videos, generally speaking, the moral axis is what you do, and the ethical axis is how you go about doing it. In that vein, it is safe to say that balance of what is done is generally more important than how that is accomplished. It is also important to remember the golden rule of alignment. It's big picture, 10,000-yard view. A neutral character who is dedicated to a balance between the cosmic forces of good and evil is not out there saying, well, I helped that orphan, so now I need to go steal from the shopkeep to balance that out. A neutral character fights for the goodly king in the face of the Dark Lord, only to show up a few years later leading the last remaining orc tribes in a battle against that same king who is now crusading to eliminate evil races from the world. This is the neutrality that is the classic dominion of the druid class, where their naturalistic view draws them to see predators culled to avoid the eradication of herd animals, or farms burned to ensure those predators have the land needed to hunt efficiently. Believe it or not, that is actually the most simple and easily played form of neutrality. It's pretty black and white. 9 times out of 10, you just take the weaker side and call it a day. The second major form of neutrality is simple apathy. This is more prevalent in OSR games where alignment almost functions as a set of factions in active opposition to one another. This is the 93%. During the American Revolution, and in most rebellions and revolutions, roughly 3% of the population is in active rebellion. In the American Revolution, roughly 3% rebelled against the British Crown. Around 4% were active loyalists who supported the British war effort. That's 7%. The other 93 did not care. They just wanted to work, raise their family, and not have their town turned into a war zone. Many neutral beings in the D&D world fall under this category. They are selfish when it doesn't hurt anybody all that much. They are helpful and giving when it doesn't take too much effort or sacrifice on their part, and they change the subject when someone tries to engage them in either a deep philosophical conversation or tries to goad them into changing their behavior. Perhaps the largest contingent of the neutral alignment, and consequently the actual alignment of the vast majority of people in the real human population, is the unprincipled neutrality. Now, you may want to jump in and say something along the lines of, unprincipled is just evil. Do what feels good because you want to. Or, unprincipled is chaotic. No guidelines or guardrails on how you do something. No code. These both forget that evil and chaotic in TTRPGs have their own active, objective definitions. Evil is not simply the absence of good. Chaos is not simply the absence of law. Unprincipled means exactly that. The principle does not actually exist within the person. They are in the good girl, nice guy stage where their behavior is largely a product of external pressures and influences. They are good because that is what everyone around them says they should be. In terms of behavior, they're good. But their alignment is still neutral because the actions they take have nothing to do with their own core sense of morality. Only what external influences have led them to. When we use neutral in game, the first step must be determining which particular flavor of neutral that particular character is. Where all good characters can be counted on to handle a given situation with largely the same goal in mind, and all lawful characters can be counted on to handle a given situation in largely the same way, 3 neutral characters may very well handle that situation in 3 radically different ways while striving for 3 radically different outcomes, because one of them is looking at it from the idea and from the perspective of we need to have balance. Where is there a lack of balance? Is there more evil or more good in this situation? Does this need to be done in a way that preserves law or a way that tears down society because it's too structured or it's not structured enough? Or does it need to be handled in kind of an apathetic manner where it's like, whatever works best. How can we get out of this? And, what's a good enough resolution, or what's the best resolution for this immediate situation? All things considered. Or simply, hey, what's everybody else saying I should do? What's the general gist of what's going on around me? What alignment am I parroting in this situation? Because I don't really have any principles of my own. So guys, that's what I have on neutrality. Leave your thoughts below. And next up, it's time to start going through the actual alignments. Remember, we have covered the fundamental building blocks so far, but I have yet to cover any of the 9 individual alignments. We've covered law and we've covered good, But lawful good is not the combination of lawful and good. It's simply lawful good. And it is distinct from chaotic good. Just as distinct from chaotic good as it is from, say, neutral evil. I look forward to your comments. I'll see you guys next time.